Welcome back, friends. We took a look at Pope Leo's background, his biography. We've looked at his education. His education focused on the structure within religious communities. Now let's take a look and define religious order in the ideal for Robert Prevost. He entered the Order of St. Augustine in the late 1970s. He stepped into a centuries-old tradition that shaped both his mind and heart. The Augustinian charism is not only about cloistered life, but also seeking God together in community through study, prayer, and service. For Prevost, the order provided a school of love and truth where mathematics and philosophy could converge with theology. Yes.
What could converge? I'm sorry, I missed that word.
Mathematics and philosophy. And that is exactly what happened to Augustine. He was a lover of numbers and philosophy. So you can see why it was a real match for his mind.
Right.
Augustine himself was no stranger to questions of reason and number. In his work on free choice of the will, Augustine argues that numbers are not inventions of the human mind, but realities discovered by it. 2 + 2 = 4, regardless of human consent, because truth exists outside of us. We may apprehend it, but we do not create it. Augustine concluded that this is evidence of an eternal order. Numbers are eternal, immutable, and independent of our minds. They are there for us to discover. This Augustinian insight resonated deeply with a young man who had earned his degree in mathematics before donning the Augustinian habit. Prevost, who had spent years working with the certainty of equations, saw in Augustine's thought a philosophical echo of what he already knew intuitively. Truth is not malleable. It has not been to culture, politics, or power. Truth has a source beyond us, and that source is God. In another of Augustine's great works, the Confessions, the saint admitted his own restless search until he discovered that only God could satisfy. You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. That same humility before the divine origin of truth became a hallmark of the Augustinian worldview. It is not the self that defines what is real or good. It is Christ, the eternal Logos, who interprets reality and illumines the mind. Prevost's formation as an Augustinian friar deepened this conviction. Community life demanded humility. Teaching demanded clarity. Leadership demanded obedience rooted in charity. He learned, as Augustine had taught, that authority in the church is never for domination but for service. Truth, too, is never a possession but a gift entrusted to the community of believers. This interplay between mathematics, theology, and philosophy shaped his pastoral voice. As he later worked in Peru, teaching seminarians and forming novices, he would remind them that study is not an exercise in pride, but an act of reverence. To understand whether through a formula, a canonical text, or a passage of Scripture is to kneel before the God who gives light. He often quoted Augustine's line from De Magistro, "We should not call ourselves teachers. Only one is the teacher. We are all pupils." In today's culture, where truth is often seen as subjective, the Augustinian heritage offers a sharp corrective. Truth is not manufactured by consensus, nor does it change with personal preference. Prevost's early life as a mathematician and later as an Augustinian friar testified to the same reality. Truth is discovered, not invented. In its origin, an interpreter is Christ. When he took the name Leo XIV, this thread remained visible. His intellectual life and religious formation were not competing forces, but complementary lenses united in Augustine's vision of the soul ascending to God through reason, illuminated by faith. Fides et ratio. That vision is as relevant in today's church as it was in the late Roman Empire, and it continues to shape how Pope Leo the 14th understands his vocation as a humble pupil of the truth who is Christ.
It is an interesting kind of juxtaposition that you put forward there, right? When you compare the culture of the world that Augustine himself found himself in with the culture of the world that Leo is confronting, right? There is a lot of similarities that are there, most of which I think would be best described by a moral relativism, right, or an amorality, something that wants to definitively reject truth as something that is outside the person, right? There is a real, I think you and I have talked about this at least from like a real political reality that libertarianism and liberty are at 100% odds to one another. We can either choose to live in a society that is based on liberty or a society that is based on license. And we cannot choose both, right? So liberty is going to be the real society that is founded on truth being discoverable exterior to the human reality, right? Something into which we can conform ourselves, or we're going to live in what's going to be a totalitarian world of licentiousness that permits somebody to believe that truth is definable by the self, right? That we can change truth to fit appetite, and that's going to be a very, very hard world. And so to have potentially somebody who has a strong foundation in really Augustinian studies, right? The studies of St. Augustine, who outside of St. Thomas Aquinas is really the premier interpreter of Christ's language through philosophy to a modern world, meaning that at the time when he was initially engaging with that truth as being exterior to himself, it was the modern world to him, right? So since we find ourselves really in a world that has many of the common errors that would have been found to Augustine himself, right? Rampant paganism, widespread hedonism. It's kind of interesting to think that maybe then this new Augustine, if that's what he ends up being, in fact, it could become something very, very necessary if he does, in fact, find the language that is necessary to be able to speak that truth, right? That, what did you just call it? That real union, I mean, it's based on the show, right? Of faith and reason, but through his understanding of number and philosophy, right? It's a really interesting lens, right? That might become beneficial to us.
Exactly. And hopeful
Definitely hopeful,
without peddling hopium.
right?
Because I don't do that and you don't do that.
Right.
So, but yes, but it is, I think, a real signal of hope that, right, this truth that is outside of them. And we're going to go straight in. So maybe let's pick up, because we're going to go to religious life and upheaval, and at the root of that's going to be more relativism. So, all right, my friends, till the next time, Fides Oratio.